My kids have been at school going on 1.5 years, and I think I've read the newsletter like 3 times.
We're teachers and we're not reading the newsletter. Imagine the parents that don't value education. They're not reading the newsletter. Like, what a waste of time. We can teach maths in so many great, fun ways. Giving our kids a textbook is not the best educational practice way to teach maths. We can do better. If your school says we have to use them, say why. Where is the research that is supporting us using maths textbooks?
What is homework replacing? Is it replacing rest that child needs? Is it replacing play that time needs? Is it replacing family time? Another crucial one, is it replacing...
So here is my hot take. It is not our job as primary teachers to prepare...
Rainbow Sky Creations acknowledge the traditional owners of the land that we record this podcast on, the Dharawal and Whadjuk Noongar people. We pay our respects to their elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander cultures.
Hello, welcome back to Rainbow Skies for Teachers. I am Ashley and I've got the lovely Alicia here with me too.
I am here and I am ready to chit-chat today, my friends.
And chit-chat we are, because we have got a different sort of episode for you today. Alicia and I have been talking about things over the years doing this podcast, obviously in our discussions outside of the podcast too. And there's lots of different opinions and things that we think about education. So we thought, why not talk about this on the pod and do a couple of our own hot takes when it comes to education and what's happening in the space?
Yes, absolutely. Now, a quick disclaimer on this episode.
Yes, we're going to do a disclaimer before we dive into these hot takes.
Yeah. Look, it really is a brain dump from our own experiences, like Ash said, of being years in the education space. Like, we've been dabbling in this space for nearly 20 years, and that's a lot of years.
Yeah.
So we're just going to be sharing our observations, questions, and things we've noticed along the way. But rest assured, I am not claiming, and Ash and I are not claiming that we know the answers. Think of this as a food for thought, because we know education is complex and student outcomes are influenced by so many factors. Like, we're talking family life, socioeconomic circumstances, support system, individual needs. So we're just having a discussion and wanting to talk about, are some common practices that we are doing still serving teachers and students in the best way? That's what this episode's about.
Yeah, it sure is. Some of them are going to be quite niche and maybe insignificant in your mind. Others are like bigger ideas. Alicia and I both have our own lists. So we're going to go through them one by one, sort of do a little tennis match. We may agree, we may disagree with each other. We don't know because we don't know what each other's hot takes are. So you are just along for this as much as we are.
I feel like I've got sweaty palms already with what we're going to talk about.
Me too, but I'm actually super excited. All right. Take it away, Alicia. Give us your first hot take.
Okay. I feel like it's an easy one we're leading the discussion with, and it's weekly staff meetings. Okay. I'm going to preference with that teachers are overloaded. And is it necessary to have weekly staff meetings? Now, I've worked at schools where we've had weekly morning briefings, and on top of that, we've had weekly after-school meetings.
I think that's a commonplace nowadays.
Yeah, and then you factor in, I'm also probably meeting with my grade partners if I'm working with other teachers of the same grade or even the key stage of like the years above and below. So already I'm factoring in there could be 3 meetings already planned in my week. And do they all need to be happening? And I think perhaps it's now, now that you and I run this business and we've worked on systems to optimize how much time we're actually meeting, and are there more practical ways to get the information across? And I think we're in an information overloaded world. Can we pull back on those weekly staff meetings? Can it be every fortnight if you're still doing the weekly briefings? Could it be a memo? I'm not saying that every single week there was a staff meeting, but I would say out of a term of 10 weeks, I felt 8 out of 10 weeks there was a weekly staff meeting. And the only time they would pull back would be around report writing time, which is appreciated from an administration. But I was there going, I would sit in those meetings and it would add to my stress. It would add to my workload. It would add to my anxiety of feeling like I wasn't doing enough and the imposter syndrome would kick in. Yeah, that's a me thing, but I'm sure there's many teachers who also have that feeling. So I'm going to ask the question of, can we reduce staff meetings and be more practical with how we communicate the information to give teachers time to plan and just recover from having 30 little humans in their face for 6 hours?
Yeah. I'm in 100% agreement with this. I remember vividly my first year of teaching, and one of my most stressful parts of the week was the Tuesday staff meeting, because I felt like I would sit in the staff meeting and I would get basically a list of jobs to do, but I had like my other to-do list, and I found it so overwhelming. Like there was just more and more and more and more to do.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
100%.
the schools I worked at, the staff meetings in the afternoons were all professional development related. Is that the same as you? So they weren't just like information giving. They were more, we're learning about the science of reading, or we're learning about math or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like it was kind of like, here's just an update on our policies or things that we're trying. Once again, we've introduced a new program this year, and you're like, really? Did we have to introduce a new program? Is this relevant to everyone? So yes, they would have more of an emphasis on professional development, and you could use it against your 20 hours that you need to claim, but it felt like a lot more than 20 hours in a year.
Yeah, it is. I've worked at schools where they said you weren't even allowed to claim the staff meeting time because you're supposed to do that. So,
well, that is ridiculous.
Yes. All right. So staff meetings, are you a yes or a no? I don't think we're saying like throw them out altogether, but we're saying that not as many.
Yeah, I think we need to be a bit more innovative with our time and more like, how much information is too much information?
Yeah. In Dubai, we didn't have them that much, did we?
No, I felt like it was like twice a term.
I think it was twice a term.
And I felt like we had a lot of communication via email or like a weekly briefing document. And it was more like, because I mean, in Dubai, I felt like I was working at a huge school, and all the schools I worked in Australia were smaller, of like 2 or 3 streams of a grade, while in Dubai it was like 6 or more streams of a grade. And I think when you become a bigger school, you have to have good systems in place, because there's so many teachers you have to communicate that information to. So is it maybe that we take a page from the bigger organisations and work on systemizing these smaller schools, or administration thinks along that way of going, you know, there are some parents who have 2, 3, 4 kids in this school, and if they're getting all that information for each student, thinking how, you know, you try and reduce the load for that information to parents, how we can do that the same for teachers too. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just saying,
can we over-communicate? You often will get a briefing, an email that's a briefing about the week on a Sunday night or a Monday morning, and then you have a staff briefing one morning before school. Like, how much information do we really need to be giving teachers all the time?
Yeah.
Well, this is actually going to lead into my next hot take, which is like super niche, but it's about communication.
Go for it.
Saying goodbye to the school newsletter. Bear with me. I know it's really niche, but I'm not saying like maybe get rid of the school newsletter altogether. But what about making the school newsletter a one-pager? Now, here is my justification behind it. I used to work in leadership in a school. A lot of time goes into writing, proofreading, and then sending out the school newsletters. And then on the other side, I'm now a parent who receives the school newsletter. I do not have time to read 6 pages of school newsletter. I'm sorry, I don't have time. And a lot of it is not relevant to me. All parents care about are the dates. Really, that's all they care about are the dates for what they need to put in their diary and what they need to remember. I think there's so many different ways that we communicate these days with our community, with our parents, that we do not need to put so much time and effort into writing newsletters. The end.
Confession, my kids have been at school going on 1.5 years, and I think I've read the newsletter like 3 times.
We're teachers and we're not reading the newsletter. Imagine the parents that don't value education. They're not reading the newsletter. Like, what a waste of time.
I know that at the school my kids go to, they only do newsletters 4 times a term. So they don't do them every week. I felt like they might have done even like that. It looks like they've gone back to like doing newsletters on even weeks. Like, I see the validity in a newsletter, but the frequency is what needs to be addressed in terms of how much information is too much information.
What about a
And
one-pager newsletter?
I love the idea of a one-pager. You would have to be selective in how much. I feel like a newsletter is sharing what the students have been up to. I think the power of a newsletter is that it's saying we're a united front, we're a community, and we're kind of all inclusive of what everyone's getting up to. But it can be too much, especially now when you've got platforms where you're getting contact daily, I feel.
Oh,
and then
multiple times a day. I'm like,
and then you got WhatsApp, then you got classroom groups for each of your kids. And I nearly had a conniption when our current parent rep, bless her soul, she's organized. Actually, I think there's a rep for like all of my daughters in pre-primary, but we have a WhatsApp group that has channels.
Oh,
so we have like play dates, school events, important announcements, and then we've got all the different pre-primary classes. So I've even got the choice to gate crash another pre-primary class. I'm like, why would I do that? To get more unnecessary information? I think maybe it's because we're millennials. We got this old millennials of like just yearning to like slow down on the information front and just be a bit uncontactable. Or like trust the process. But I don't think the frequency of a newsletter, I'm in agreement with you. I think either reducing the volume or the frequency.
Or thinking about other ways that we're sharing this information. I don't particularly love the idea of a Facebook page for schools. That's another conversation. But so many schools are doing that, and they're doing the newsletter, and they're sending out notes, and they've got the weekly assembly.
Oh my God, they're different.
We've got so many things. It's like we're differentiating for the parents.
We are.
For all the different ways of communication.
It's like, here's our techie people, here's our social media people, and what happens is there's so much. Then it becomes like the me who just goes, you know what, someone's going to tell me. I'll find out somehow.
What better time could we be doing with the newsletter writing time? What could we be doing with that time that would be better? That's really the topic here, the main crux of it. Anyway, told you it was quite niche.
It was, but highly relevant.
All right, I'm going to return serve to you. Hit us up.
Okay. My return serve is... I'm choosing which order to take. I'm going to say report grades. Do we need them to the way that we do them? So going back to my first disclaimer, are the common practices we do still serving teachers and students? So I want you to keep that in mind when I'm talking about report grades. I think report grades, I think we need to talk about that word success. And I feel like kids' self-esteem, self-worth, value can lie on a report grade in terms of either I'm a smart kid, a good kid, a dumb kid. Like, it can be such an impactful. And really what grades are looking at is the academic achievements, because we can't really give a grade for social and emotional. You can't be like, oh, you get an A for teamwork and you get an A for resilience and an A for kindness, So I think my question is of how do we look at grades? And look, factoring in, I'm talking from a primary years perspective.
Yeah, all of this is primary school. Yeah.
And look, and I'm sure, we come from a system where we want to know where we fit in. Are we meeting the expectations? So my question is, I've been at schools where they've got rid of the grades and they've gone down that path of working above, working at, or working towards. And I think sometimes we put so much focus on that specific number. I feel like my 5-year-old does this. She's like, did I get 90%? Did I get 95%? And it's like, really, that 5% doesn't make a difference. Are you understanding the concept? Now, the interesting thing is, the reason I bring up report grades is because there is some research that aligns with showing report grades can reduce interest in learning. Oh, that's not great. Can encourage students to pick easier tasks and promote shallow thinking instead of deep thinking. So it's not just like made up here. In terms of if you think about it, if you're there going, I want to get an A, I'm going to pick the thing that I know that I can do to get that A. And that might involve me doing a task that doesn't challenge me, but I know is going to be easy for me to accomplish that result. rather than do we flip the switch and start focusing on those things where we're reaching a world of the AI where knowledge is at our fingertips, of encouraging those elements of, what are your interests? What are motivating you? Where can we get the deep thinking, the curiosity? I'm leaning towards saying, I don't really want an A to E grade system on my kids' reports. I'd be happy with just knowing where they are at based on the curriculum or not.
Yeah, I'm in agreement with you. The A to E system came in one of my first years of teaching, and I remember it caused an uproar. And this is almost 20 years ago now, right? So we've had it for a very, very long time. Still now, we are educating parents, and I've sat in teacher-parent interviews where I'm the parent and the teacher's trying to educate me, saying C is where we want them to be, and the parent community doesn't really understand that. So firstly, we're offering them a report that they cannot align themselves with. They see a C and they want their child to get a B or an A. So that, firstly, is failing. We're not giving them what they need, even though we're telling them that a C is where they're at. I think it would be way better if they had the working above, working at, working towards, because it just makes it really, really clear where they are, where they need to be, and takes away that stigma of A, B, C, D. But the other thing that I wanted to say about reports, and I've noticed this especially in the last 12 months with my own kids' reports, is that with AI, which I highly recommend if you're a teacher and you have to write reports, yes, use AI. I'm not saying no to that. But I'm saying that the reports are becoming quite generic, that there's actually almost no point in having the report. So I've read some of my children's reports, and basically it's just the outcome reworded, saying whether they can do it or whether they can't, which I can see by the ticker box of the A, B, C, D. I know I'm a teacher, but I just feel like this is just a waste of time. Somebody has written that, proofread that, someone's gone to the next level to proofread it, then they've had to print it or email it out. And really, it's just a regurgitation of the curriculum.
Outcomes.
Yeah, I feel like we could do way better.
Yes, and I agree. So I feel like these two topics are on report grades, report comments. I worked at a school and I loved this approach. And I was teaching year 2, and it was for the primary years. It had a middle school. So the kids were from kindy up to year 4. And we had to write 6 sentences. 3 saying what the students have accomplished or have been doing well. Well, I'm talking only English and maths. I'm not talking the other subjects where just you can read the tick box. You're an intelligent human.
Yeah.
I'm not going to write a comment. I can incorporate that in the general comment. So we only had to write 3 comments, 1 general, and English and maths that were 6 statements. And the first 3 was kind of along the lines of what your kid has been doing really well. Ashley has been taking her time really to work on her letter formations. And it was kind of really personalized. And then the other 3 statements were what they're working towards. And this is what I love so much about these statements, where they were goals for me, they were goals for the student, and they were goals for the parents to know what was on board, of going, all right, next step for Ashley is we're going to be working on her punctuation. So we're really focusing on our capital letters, our full stops. Next step, our next goal is that we're going to build our stamina for writing, as if that's in the outcomes, right? It is, but it's not written in layman's terms for parents to understand, to say, oh, my kid needs to work on being able to hold their attention span for 15 minutes and build the strength up in their hand to be able to write a paragraph. To me as a parent, I go, oh yeah, that's all right. That's achievable. When we're doing birthday cards, we can be working on them writing that card, and that builds their stamina. So I loved that because it was so personalized. And yes, as a teacher, I could work smarter and I could come up with a bunch of sentences that reflected what students were working towards, but I'm applying it to that kid and making it really specific, not so ambiguous of the ambiguous. I can't give an example.
It's an information source. And if you're actually not giving proper information, then why are we doing it? It's kind of going back to the newsletter. If no one's reading the newsletter, then why write the newsletter?
Yeah, I get it. You need school reports for if you're wanting to send your kid to a certain school, you need to provide evidence. So I know it's a legal document.
Yes, of course. You've got to have them.
But I think it's saying, how can we use it as an effective tool for teachers, not just the thing we have to do because we've done it this way all the time. Now, I'd love to know if that school is still doing it that way. A bit of my heart and soul thinks they've probably changed it because they felt like they need to fit in with societal expectations. But I found it as a really powerful tool, and parents were actually quite receptive. Like, they were like, hey, this was like, thanks so much for that information. I can use that.
Yeah.
Or I can put my whole faith in the education system and just not fret about it.
Reach out to that school and see if they're still doing it, and then give us an update on the potty. We'd love to know.
Yeah, I should. I'll go see if I can find any teachers who are still working there.
Yeah. Okay. What have I got next on my list? Okay, this is on the same lines as reporting. I live in New South Wales. I hope I'm not going to make a faux pas here and make a broad statement it's not true, but I'm sure people will tell us if it's not true. In New South Wales schools, homework is not compulsory. And I know already that Alicia wants to talk about homework, but I don't think we should be reporting or have a report ticker box about homework. Because it's got nothing to do with what the child has achieved at school. It's got a lot to do with whether they are getting the support at home, and do we need to tick that box in primary school where they need the support of the parents at home in order to achieve the homework. In high school, different story, because maybe you don't know what your kids are doing, whether they're completing their homework or not. That's fine. You do you. But I believe that we should take that off the report.
100% agree. In terms of homework, should we talk about homework?
Yeah, I was going to say, well, give us your homework take. Give us your homework hot take.
You give us your homework hot take. Come on, you go first. I feel like I've waffled enough on the last one.
I don't think it's any surprise, and I feel like I've said it before on the potty. I'm not a big believer in homework for primary school. I think, yes, we want to get our kids reading. It's very important that our kids read. That's a given. Getting our kids to write down words over and over again or complete loads of maths problems, I just don't think that that's doing them any justice. We know that kids learn through play. We know that we don't want to overschedule them. And I think that homework is adding to that. And also, I really believe that so many teachers also don't believe in homework, but we do it because the parents want it, and the parents aren't the professionals in education. So why aren't we pushing back and saying to them, no, the research shows that homework really does not make a big impact on student outcomes at school. Encourage your child to read with your child, but also get them to do some things that they enjoy at home. It's okay for them to come home and play or relax, do Lego, whatever tickles their fancy.
100%. So there is research out there. There's a gentleman called Alfie Kohn. He's a bit controversial. He's the one who you will love, Ash. He talks about homework doesn't need to be the way that it is. Grades, why do we have grades? But there is other research that has been done that shows things like reading at home is beneficial. Meaningful revision, now this is for primary, is sometimes beneficial. Sometimes. Excessive repetitive homework has low impact and doesn't lead to benefits in academics or like big jumps in academics that you would, I guess, hope for necessarily. Now, homework in high school, has different effects. So remember, we're talking primary years. But you hit a hot take there, Ash. What is homework replacing? Is it replacing rest that child needs? Is it replacing play that time needs? Is it replacing family time? Another crucial one, is it replacing curiosity? Are we not even giving kids permission to be bored? Because when we don't give kids permission to be bored, they don't have time to flex that muscle of curiosity, of play, of exploring. We know there are lots of factors that impact kids and being able to complete the homework. And I reckon, honestly, if you did a poll to the parents at your school and say, hey, how beneficial is this homework? I reckon you would have a bigger portion than you think leaning towards, actually, I don't really want to do the homework. Homework in itself can be such a conflict point for parents and children.
Massive conflict.
Yeah, which impacts that connection time, right? Impacts that family time, adds unnecessary pressure and strain. We're not factoring here kids who are having to go see speech therapists, OTs, do other things that are like highly beneficial to them being able to function, that if we're adding on top of it of going, practice these numbers, practice all these spelling words, or practice XYZ over and over again every single week, it becomes too much.
It does.
Too much.
becomes too much. So I think we're both on team no homework.
Yeah, team no homework. Team just give me a book and we'll run with that. Honestly,
Yeah.
even trying to get my kid to read a book at the moment is a challenge in
It can
itself.
be, absolutely. And like, there's so many parents out there in that boat.
Yeah. And I think if your school mandates you to do homework, I think maybe look at it from a different lens, right? When we're in the classroom, we provide that real life experience or what that student is interested in. And having a look at exploring homework differently in terms of what they have to present. Like, is it going to be a way for them to be creative, for them to be problem solving, to play a game that incorporates family time or enhances curiosity or communication? I mean, it's just sometimes we just got to think a bit differently and not stick to what we think is the script we have to be doing.
Yeah.
That's all.
Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to lead on to my next hot take from this because we have said on socials many times that we don't really believe in homework, and people always come back at us. Always as the people who believe in homework, or the biggest argument that comes back is we need to prepare the kids for high school. So here is my hot take. It is not our job as primary teachers to prepare the children for high school. It is high school's job to teach the kids in the way that they want to have things run when they get to high school. As primary teachers, we get our kiddos in kindergarten. Some have been to preschool, some have not been to preschool, some have learnt bad habits at preschool in regards to reading and the science of reading and all of that sort of thing, and we just deal with it. We don't say to the early childhood teachers, excuse me, you need to be preparing the children for primary school. We don't sit all year in year 2 preparing our kids for grade 3. There is a slow progression, and I think that high schools need to take responsibility for their part. And if it's not age appropriate to be sending home homework or whatever it might be, then the high schools need to pick up the slack on their end.
I absolutely agree with you.
It's a bit harsh. I reckon high school teachers would be rolling their eyes at this going, oh my God.
But I think it's also that question of going, I feel like there's been a shift with introducing what they call it,
Like a
middle schools.
school. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's kind of like that gradual progression where they're building up the independence of the students. So them shifting from year 5, from year 4, they kind of graduate primary school, move up to the middle years, where they still have their classroom teacher as their home base, but then they're starting to go to more teachers, a bit like in primary school, but more of that leash is longer. That expectation is becoming more upon the responsibility of that student, and give them time to build on those executive functioning skills to be able to schedule, pack, prepare what you need for the next day, rather than this huge transition of what parents and teachers might see is when they're in year 6 and then they go straight into like year 7 and they don't have that easier,
Transition.
I guess it's like develop appropriate transition.
Yeah.
And I think it comes down to the question for, oh my gosh, high schools, I'm going to say this, of looking, is your system working for the children who are coming in at that point in time?
Yeah.
Do you need to look at your systems and go, actually, this isn't working? Or things change. Circumstances change. Like what might work in one socioeconomic area may not work in another socioeconomic area. So it doesn't mean we all need to be beating the same rhythm from the same drum. And I think that's the ultimate conversation of saying it's okay to do things differently because you're looking at the data of the source there and you're seeing how that is going to be beneficial to the students, you know, and to the families in that area. But yeah, high school teachers, you got to get responsible for your stuff, my friends.
Come on. Stop blaming us. We're doing a really good job.
Absolutely. I feel like mine's a bit more of a lighter one, this one.
Okay, go.
This one is, and it got me thinking of how my teaching practice changed over the years. And it's that we don't need teaching slides for every lesson. So teaching slides can support teachers, but I feel like over-reliance may reduce flexibility, spontaneity, and teacher intuition. And I'm saying this from firsthand experience. I felt a lot of pressure. I loved my previous schools I worked at, but I also felt a lot of pressure at the schools I was working at in how I was delivering content, making sure that kids were achieving what they were achieving, giving the homework they needed to be doing. Man, I was stressed. I was feeling burnout. But I felt like teacher slides created those like confined boundaries for me.
Yes.
And it there was an element where it made everything easier because I could just copy and repeat, which is great. But also, I felt like it was killing me as a human in terms of I think some of my superpowers as a teacher was my flexibility and my spontaneity. And I think sometimes that if we have structures important, organization, clarity is important because that establishes, confidence in knowing what you're delivering. But I think it also exacerbated my perfectionism, but it also increased my prep time, which wasn't great.
Yeah.
Like it increased and decreased. Like at times it was working for me, but when I had to then create new slides, it would take my time and I'd feel like I'd had to justify of going, if I don't teach this grade next year, this is a whole lot of time that's wasted on me. And then it made me a bit dependent on screens. And with all the research behind screens and tech, I know. So I guess my question is, are we prioritizing polished lessons over, I guess, responsive teaching to where the students are at? And I think in my heart of hearts now, if I was back in the classroom, I don't know if I would be pushing so hard on having teaching slides. I feel like I might try to go back to like when I started, in 2008, where I didn't even have a projector in my classroom or anything linked up to the computer. And it was just good old whiteboard and marker.
So my question to you is, were you writing your program and then converting that program into teaching slides?
So, I would have a program and then I would have teaching slides to teach each specific lesson. Like it was extensive.
So my only counter argument to this would be, I agree. Let's not be creating things for the sake of creating things.
Yeah.
But in many schools that I worked, especially when I got into leadership, one of my things that I put into practice within the school community was making the teaching slides your actual program. So we're not writing the program. We've got our teaching slides. At the beginning of the slides, you put your outcomes, you put down any of the information that you need, and then those slides were your program. And I kind of feel like that way we're killing two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
However, when I first started doing this, we worked with Smartboards and Smart Notebook, and that no longer exists. So there's so many programs that I created teaching slides for that now I can't use or access anymore. That is the downside.
Yeah, if technology evolves.
Yeah, which it does and it is going to.
Oh, I mean, we're living in an age where the pace of change in the technical space is, it's terrifying in terms of the speed it's going. I'm sorry, my young friends. As you get older, it gets a little bit more overwhelming. No, embracing change. So I guess I was just raising this question because I feel like there's been a shift with this expectation or not necessary expectation, but this delivery of content in a way where teachers might feel like a teaching slide. I think there is validity in when we use a teaching slide, but is it constraining you?
Yes.
And becoming a time-consuming thing where you feel like you should be doing that so that you can be the best teacher you can be?
Yeah.
I'm saying challenge yourself to just fly by the seat of your pants for a lesson or not use the interactive whiteboard or the projector.
Go analog. This is my next hot take.
Go.
My next hot take is less to no, but probably not none altogether, but way less technology in classrooms. And this is coming from a gal who believed in all the technology and got all teachers onto the Google platform at a school I worked at, and who was all gung-ho about creating websites and blogs and all sorts of things. We can know from some of the recent research that ed tech has been a little bit of a lie. We've been sold a dream that may not be doing the best thing for our kids. What's the country that's just recently gotten rid of all technology?
I've been living under a rock. You're going to have to tell me.
So there's several Scandinavian countries. We've got Sweden, Finland, that are ditching screens in order to put more paper in schools, and they're finding really great results. Also, I heard this study the other day, which is just like mind-bogglingly scary, that Gen Z is the first generation to not outsmart the people in front of them. So millennials are smarter than Gen Zs, but this is the first time that the generation earlier has not outsmarted the generation before. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so we're kind of saying the kids should be smarter than their parents,
The kids
but
should
it's
be
the first
smarter than us, but they're not.
Yeah, Yeah.
And one of the only things that's different in their lives is the technology.
Jonathan Haig, who's a social psychologist, who's done a huge, this is his life mission about technology. And the research that him and his team and he's been finding reflects that technology is impacting the, I guess, intelligence, the attention span, so many factors on the current generation. And I guess the question is of going, I guess for us millennials and prior to that, we could see the benefits of technology in terms of, saving time, helping us be more organized. But with that has impacted things on our focus, our curiosity, our creativeness. And in a way, it has to save our time. And unfortunately, now it's stealing our time because it's trying to, capture our interest with, short form videos and so forth, which, research is showing is terrible for us. But then we are slow form absorbing humans, and technology puts us in an environment to be consuming information so quickly, which is kind of too quick for us sort of thing.
Yeah.
So going back to more slow form contact, like books, longer passages we're reading or blog posts, news like articles, not just 7, 15, 30-second reels on repeat for an hour. It's going to fry our brains. So I think technology has a piece to play, but also how we are evolutionary wise, that there's the benefits for us with pen and paper and having that tactile material.
We've seen it ourselves with some of the maths games that we've created. We love using cards or playing cards for kids to create that game element, gamifying learning, but it's hands-on and they're talking to each other and they're not in front of a screen that's dinging at them. And we have so much positive feedback about that. And really, it's old school.
Yeah, it is. It is old school.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And I kind of think about how my brain works now as I'm getting older, or I've been learning lots of stuff. I like to class myself as a lifelong learner, but I know certain bits of information stick in my head more than other bits of information.
Yeah.
And I can read something off my computer screen. Look, my friends, I am in front of a computer screen quite a bit in terms of what we do here at Rainbow Sky Creations. And I love it. But I know that when I'm having conversation with you, Ashley, or we're meeting new people, as much as I like my digital calendar, I do like to write things down. So on a Sunday, Ashley has imparted her wisdom, but on a Sunday, I will get my book and I've got my digital calendar. But for me to retain it in my brain, I will get a pen and paper and I'll write down everything I need to do that week. And I've got that snapshot and that information is kind of going from my brain to the bit of paper back into my brain. While if I'm looking at a screen, it's it goes in but doesn't stay.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some brain thing behind it. And when I'm having conversations or we're interviewing people, I'm writing down information to absorb what I've just heard as a note-taking skill. But if I maybe type it on a screen, for some reason it doesn't absorb so much well as if I don't write it down on paper. Poor Ashley is looking at me touching my head with bits of my hands going in and out of my head.
We can't see you.
I know.
But it's true.
But
I'm sure there's lots of research around that. I'm sure there is.
Yeah. So our hot take was
less
technology.
Technology, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's great. My daughter at the moment, she's doing a dress up. The school's doing a fundraiser for what they want to dress up as. And my eldest was like, I don't want to dress up as anything. And I'm like, come on, there could be something really cool. You're creative, you're a thinker, you could be an author, a zookeeper. And we came down to video game designer. So
okay,
she's
that's fun.
Yeah. So she goes, I want to be a video game designer. And she said, what accessories would I need? And I said, well, you probably need a laptop. And she's like, oh, yeah, or I could or a game console. I went, you could, but you need to create the game on a tool. So I was there going, I could just give you an old laptop. But she's, we've gone and we've built a laptop with cardboard and we've got the Macadoo little screws. And she spent a good 2 hours yesterday designing her laptop, looking at my laptop, working out what features to add to her laptop, going, what do people put on their laptop so other people know it's their laptop? So we talked about stickers and labels and what brand of laptop. And I kind of thought I could have killed the thinking for her immediately. But by giving them the opportunity to flex that muscle, and she got frustrated and she's saying, well, how should it be? I said, really, it can be however you want it to be. Don't put yourself into a box with how you think everyone else does it. How do you think it should be? And I kind of feel like this is the discussion we're having of going, Do we need to put ourselves into a box? Do we need to, well, as everyone's going down the technology path, do technology all the time? Or can we pull away and go, do you know what? We're not going to do teaching slides today. I'm going to take the breaks off and try something different and see how receptive my class is. Or see it as your own social experiment to see if I do a week without teaching slides, what does that do to my class? How does do I see an impact in behavior? Do I see a shift in calmness? Or do I see the opposite? Sometimes I think if you're not innately a bit of a curious, analytical person, I don't think I always was. I feel like I've got better as I've got older. That I think there's a bit of me now that would do a social experiment in my classroom just to be like, I just want to see how it actually impacts my class.
Yeah, and impacts you.
And have some evidence for myself that I could use. And I think there's a bit of me that goes, oh, wish I did that more back in the day. I do it more now. But anyway, once again, an Alicia waffle. Thanks for listening, everyone.
Food for thought, that is for sure. All right. So we have our final hot take for this episode. And if you're liking the hot takes and the discussions, please let us know because I'm sure we could come up with many, many, many more. Okay. Here's the final one, which we did speak about on the podcast a few weeks ago. And that is no maths textbooks.
Oh,
I know. And I feel like when I mentioned it last time, Alicia was a bit like, oh, okay. I've got some thoughts about it. The ones that I hate the most, what I'm talking about when I say no maths textbooks is that every child having a textbook that they've got to work out of. What I hate the most out of maths textbooks are mental maths. And these are the reasons why. There are too many questions. So if they're being sent home for them to be completed over a week, way too many questions to complete. Besides the fact that I hate homework, way too many questions to complete at home. Number 2, they are all in mixed, mushed up order and never follow a good system that we follow as teachers. So often kids are trying to answer questions that they've got no idea about because they haven't learnt that yet. So if we're going with maths textbooks, maybe it would be a far better idea if we're giving them the textbook before. So if you're in year 5, you're having a year 4 textbook. Mm-hmm. Number 3, they are not differentiated in any shape or form. So many children feel like they are failing. And number 4 is that it's just not good practice. We can teach maths in so many great, fun ways. Giving our kids a textbook is not the best educational practice way to teach maths. We can do better. If your school says we have to use them, say why. Where is the research that is supporting us using maths textbooks? And I'm going to add in a bonus one. If your school orders them and then you don't use all of the pages and then they come back to you and say, why aren't all the pages used? Or parents say you didn't use all of these pages of a textbook that I paid for. Like, that's annoying.
That's like the most annoying saying, isn't it? It's like, why did you not use this?
So yes, they're the reasons why I don't like maths textbooks. I don't like lots of other textbooks either, but I just think those mental ones are so bad with the amount of questions and the mushed up questions.
Yeah, you raise a lot of really good points. I feel like I'm torn, like I'm sitting on the fence here, where I feel like no matter what textbooks, whether we're talking about a maths textbook for the grade or a mental maths books, you are kind of locked in to feeling obligated to use it. And no matter what, you're still going to be looking for different ways to teach that concept. Like, I've been there. I've had a math textbook, but it doesn't hit the mark on what I'm trying to get across. So I'm still having to do research to find information. And then I'm still trying to have to link it back into this book that these parents have paid for that I feel like I need to justify to use. So I'm just feeling a whole load of pressure. So I think as well with the mental maths, you made a really good point of like the concepts, that it's just a lot of gear switching for kids, and especially in those younger years, to be able to switch between like, grouping, adding, taking away, that maybe if you're doing a mental maths book, it is just one concept.
Yes.
And you're building on that concept rather than, oh, hang on a second, we're timesing, but now we're doing analog clocks. And you're like, oh gosh, that was a quick gear switch. And that's a lot for little brains. And to be honest, it's a lot for big brains too sometimes. So, I think I can sit on the fence of people where I can kind of go, oh, like I can see why people have mental maths books, the ease of it, it's already done for you. but I can also see how it's not best practice for how our brains learn for doing those type of textbooks. So yeah, what do we do?
If you want to
and
do
I'm
maths,
saying Axe teaching slides. Sorry, here we go.
I think that if we want to do maths mentals, like if that's the concept you want to do, nothing wrong with it. But maybe get like 5 questions that is something that you've already covered in class and give those.
I do like how you said
20 questions.
Mm.
And we're talking 20 questions like per day.
And I do like how
4
you
or
said
5
give the
days.
previous grade.
Or give the previous grade. Yes. Because then they will have covered it.
You're going to get the question of like, but my kids aren't being challenged enough.
But that's not really, well, I suppose, what are we using them for? Are we using them for review? Like your in-class time is where they need to be challenged. And a maths textbook's not going to be doing that.
No. And I feel like when I'm looking at a mental maths book, you're kind of using it for revision or practice and repetition, which comes back to that, have they been taught the concept? And if they haven't been taught the concept, which you find often, say when I had it for my year 2s last, I'm there having to teach half past time to kids who haven't worked out half past time on an analog clock yet. So then I'm having to say to the kids, well, actually just scrap question 18, and it's becoming more work for me, rather than if I had just gone, you know what, we're just going to do mental maths that's practicing our addition and subtraction for the first term. Like that's, and place value. That's more applicable for where my kids are at. So this is where
I feel like you're coming around to my side.
I think I am.
Now, I'm going to put a little disclaimer here. I'm not saying like, say you're doing angles and you want your kids to practice like naming different angle types and you think, oh, there's a great textbook page. I'm just going to photocopy that and give it out. We do that as teachers. That's not what I'm saying no to. What I'm saying no to is parents buying a textbook and then that is our main source for delivering the information, or parents buying a maths mentals textbook and expecting kids just do question after question after question.
Yeah. I think it's along the lines of save the parents' money, save you time and energy.
In marking that. Yes.
And if the parents want that book, they go buy it themselves.
Exactly. Okay. Wow, I'm so glad I got that one off my chest.
Well, like Ash said, I mean, you can take everything we say with a grain of salt today. It's just like we're literally having a discussion to go, do we need to still be doing the things that we're doing? And if you've got a topic you want us to talk about publicly, just let us know.
Yeah,
hit us up. We are curious to know if there are more messages, like more topics you would like us to discuss.
Yeah, it's been a bit of a different episode, but it's been fun. It's been a little bit like nerve-wracking. But we didn't we said at the beginning of this before we got on air, like we can disagree with each other. We're just going to respectfully disagree if we do. But it was not too bad. We're aligned with most things.
It's probably why we have a business together. But
yes,
you know, we do butt heads, my friends. We do.
Every now and then. Every now and then we do.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this was a fun one. Let us know if you liked it. Like Alicia said, please send us a message if you would like us to do another version of this.
Yeah.
A version of Hot Takes, or if you'd like us to talk about a particular topic. We may or may not agree with you, and that's okay.
Absolutely. And if you like hearing what we talk about and the things we think about, you can always join our email list where we're sending out weekly thoughts, just having general chit chats about education and things we're sharing on the blog. So if you have found this podcast, but you want to be a bit more intimate with us, come join our email list.
Yeah. We'll put a link in the show notes for a freebie. It'll be our favorite number of the day freebie, and you'll get that freebie, and then you'll be on our email list. So
yes,
that will be linked in the show notes.
And until next time, there are rainbows ahead, my friend.
And together, we're unstoppable.
Thanks for choosing to listen to Rainbow Skies for Teachers, the go-to show dedicated to teachers who want to make a big difference in education.
If you enjoyed the episode, please leave us a 5-star review or share the episode with a friend. Because together we're
unstoppable.